IBS, or irritable bowel syndrome. This is something that is a tragedy because 1/6 of our nation is suffering from this. This is something I see in the office on a regular basis, almost weekly. And when a new patient comes in, they're telling me they're having these problems, I give them a log and I tell them to go home, write down what they've ate for every meal, and they bring it back in a week and we go over it. And every time I look at this, I cannot believe what I'm seeing because it's poisons and toxins and people just don't know. So hopefully this video will educate you, because mainstream medicine says there's no cure, there is no cause, but I believe that there is a cause for this, and I'm going to share it with you. And then I'm going to share with you my protocol on nutrition, how I restore the digestive system. And it's just not restoring the intestinal flora, it's more than that. We first have to understand that our body is a temple that's been given to us by God and that we must take care of it. And when I see people coming in eating milk and cereal for breakfast, I have to stop them from the first meal from the day and explain to them that milk is very toxic unless you're getting it from a local farmer that is raw, because in the stores they're selling this stuff and it has been homogenized and pasteurized and it's dead, it's not living, and then your body has problems digesting it because it has no enzymes in there. So that's why I do not have any milk in the house. I do not drink milk with my meals. I do not have any bread in the house. Bread has been bleached and destroyed. I mean, if you look at the back of your bread, it will say bleached. So it's non-living. It has a long shelf life because of that. So let's go on to another issue is that I see people having their gallbladders removed. Your gallbladder was given to you by God, so it's a really important organ. It is to hold the bile and to release the bile to digest your fats or to emulsify those. So people do not have a gallbladder always put on a product at my office by standard process called AF beta food and Colocol, which will help with gallstones, thin the bile, emulsify fats. So there's two products I just mentioned that will help you out quite a bit. We need to talk about your stomach. This pH of your stomach must be normal. So that's really important that you're not drinking a lot of liquids with your meals. If you are to drink liquids, drink 30 minutes before and drink water. If you're drinking milk with your meals, it will buffer your acidic, it will buffer the pH of your stomach, and you will not have the hydrochloric acid to digest your food properly. So really important there. And we're going to go into we've talked about the gallbladder, we've talked about the stomach a little bit. Let's move on in. If you do not have a gallbladder or your gallbladder is not working properly, the bile salts actually send a signal to the pancreas to release the pancreatic enzymes to digest the rest of your food. Now, people have problems here, so we put them on a starch digest enzyme. I use a company called Ness. This is where people get into digestive enzymes, and there's a lot of digestive enzymes with amylase, protease, cellulase, lipase. I like Starch Digest too because it has more amylase to digest the carbohydrates for that reason. So I deal with the lipase and with other reasons or other products. Now, when we talk about the intestinal flora, now this is kind of I drew like the inside of a large intestine. We have a layer of bacteria here. The bacteria we call intestinal flora. This is huge. This is important because this helps break down our food, keeps our immune system, keeps it strong. And when a patient comes in and they're on medication, which will destroy the intestinal flora, coffee, smoking, some people have problems because of the medication, which I just mentioned, alcohol, and eating processed food is one of the biggest things. Processed food and the dehydrogenated oil that's been in there, and that will destroy it in a hurry. So what happens is when we have the large intestines, we get this syndrome called leaky gut. Leaky gut is where microscopically it starts and we get holes in the lining of the intestines. So I'm going to make a little hole right here. When it gets large enough, we call it an ulcer. But we have leaky gut, and what happens is the gastric juices come throughout here and it becomes a particle, and it's called an antigen. I know you've all heard that term, antigens. And then what happens is the body produces antibodies to fight the antigens. One antigen can have up to 100,000 antibodies attack it. So it's a big reaction here. And when this reaction occurs, we have an immune complex that's the body's trying to heal itself in phagocytosis. Now, this is where a histamine reaction occurs, so it's inflammation. And this is why I drew a picture of an eye. Looking at somebody, I can tell you whether or not they're having digestive problems, sometimes by signs and symptoms, by looking at their eyes. They have redness in their eyes, looking at their fingernails. I mean, the Chinese have a lot of different ways of diagnosing people. Pulse diagnosis, just by visual looking. This is huge because I want to backstep to IBS. If you came into my office and you said you had pain behind the eye, and you had pain right here on the top of your neck, and you wanted to know what the problem was. And I ran x-rays at my office, I did a neurological test, and spent all this time with you, and then at the end of my exam, I said, I found out what your problem was. You have a headache. Would you be excited, leave there knowing that you found out your answer, you have a headache, go home, tell your friends and family, I have a headache, now I know why my head has been hurting for the last year? No, because it's a symptom. Sign and symptom. It does not tell you why your head is hurting, or it does not tell you why you have a headache. This is the same thing what IBS is. It's just a symptom. It tells you that your intestines or your stomach is irritable, or spastic colon is not a diagnosis to me. The diagnosis would be that you're eating bad food, that you have leaky gut, you have some problems in your intestines that we need to deal with, lack of flora. So when we deal with this, we need to restore the intestinal flora. That's why people will take in probiotics. But the bacteria, you can take a probiotic all day long, but your bacteria has to have something to grow on. So that's why I drew an apple up here. Apple is something I should think you should have maybe once a day. The outside of the apple has what's called amylopectin, and the bacteria can go in there and eat on the amylopectin and has something to grow on, versus just giving bacteria and it doesn't have anything to grow on. It doesn't work as good. When we restore this, I really like a product called Chlorophyll Complex. Its standard process is only one that makes the fat soluble. Everything else I've ever seen on the market is water soluble, so that's huge. Chlorophyll will come in and repair that really well. L-glutamine will do that. I put patients on some protein, not a synthetic protein. It is an undenatured. I keep it in the refrigerator, and it even says on the back undenatured protein, so it's really delicate. So whey protein, complete whey protein, NutriWest makes a really good one. There's a couple other ones out there, but those are the two that I use for NutriWest and standard process for my protein to restore the intestinal flora. Now, let's go back to the stomach. I didn't mention the two products that I like to use that help get the stomach a little bit more acidic. Zypan from Standard Process and Hypo D from NutriWest are great products. Those are the two that I carry in my office. The gallbladder, I mentioned that. The starch digest #2 for the pancreas, and then the intestines, we're going to use some probiotics, and we're going to use some chlorophyll complex, we're going to use some L-glutamine, and I see this reverse within a week or two really quick. I get patients coming in and they're bleeding because they're having so many problems and they're scared to death, and they've taken all these antibiotics thinking this is going to heal them. Well, it actually can make you worse because of the leaky gut syndrome. Just remember, there's always a big eye in the sky that's watching. So you can lie to me, you can lie to yourself, but you can't lie to God. And God can forgive you, but your body may not.